We're going to treat this old pine door with an oak-coloured linseed oil glaze. Before starting, make sure you have everything you need. Boiled linseed oil for the basic treatment, oil glaze and paint to break the colour, suitable brushes, a sponge, an empty jar, a stick for mixing, sanding materials, tools, a cloth for wiping the wooden item and your hands, soap for washing your hands and the brushes. Before starting, we recommend that you first read the operational procedures and tips given in our brochure and on our website. The estimated amount of oil glaze per application on untreated wood is 15 to 25 square metres per litre. The drying time is 10 to 20 hours depending on the ambient temperature and ventilation. The optimal temperature for application is approximately 15 to 25 degrees Celsius. Make sure that the room in which you're applying the oil glaze is well ventilated, not least for drying purposes. Start by treating the surface with boiled linseed oil so that the substrate is well saturated. This is done best using a sponge. Make sure there's plenty of oil on the sponge and apply it as evenly as possible over the surface. Wipe off the excess oil with a cloth and allow the door to dry for about a day. When the door is dry, it's time to sand down any irregularities that have occurred due to the wood swelling after applying the oil. Wipe off all the sanding dust with a cloth so that the door is completely dust-free before applying the oil glaze. Now it's time to mix the glaze. Open the cans with a spatula so that the lids remain undamaged. An intact lid will keep the can tightly sealed and the contents will last longer. Pour the colourless oil glaze into an empty jar. Our breaking colours are available in a variety of different shades, and each shade is measured in a volume that is adapted to 1 litre of oil glaze. Simple. Pour the chosen shade, which in this case is oak, into the mixing jar. Scrape out all the contents carefully using the mixing stick. Then mix thoroughly so that the mixture is homogeneous. Also stir it well regularly during the application, otherwise the breaking colour will sink to the bottom. There are different ways of applying the glaze, and one way is to use quite a broad glazing brush. Work in the glaze along the direction of the wood grains. You can even out the glaze using a sponge. Use a small sponge to get into the corners and joints, and a large one for the even surfaces. Make any adjustments with the large sponge using long strokes and gentle pressure to create an evener surface as possible. The thicker the layer of glaze, the darker the shade will be. Make any final adjustments with a wide flat brush. To achieve the best results, follow the direction of the wood grain with the brush. Carry out a final visual check to ensure that the glaze has been applied evenly over the entire door. When the door has dried after a day, it's time to apply one last coat of colourless glaze oil for a shinier and more durable finish. Avoid dipping the brush in too deeply, as the oil will become runny and difficult to apply. Apply the glaze oil quite plentifully and as evenly as possible. The door is now saturated with glaze oil, so wipe off any excess with a cloth. Now we have a beautiful door with a semi-gloss finish that's easy to keep clean. To avoid spontaneous combustion, soak all the cloths that have been in contact with the oil and wax and seal them in a waste disposal bag. wash the brushes and your hands with soap and water. It's worthwhile to look after your brushes, as a good brush is an expensive item. A used, well-looked-after brush is also better to work with than one that is brand new. If you're planning to use your brushes again in a few days' time, then they don't need to be washed, but simply placed in raw linseed oil to prevent them from drying out. This treatment can be performed on a variety of carpentry work and, as previously stated, a wide range of shades are available to choose between.